I should have known something was wrong when my mother-in-law, Eleanor Blackwood, invited me to her lavish 60th birthday celebration. In 15 years of marriage to her son, she'd never wanted me at any family event. But there I was, walking into the Blackwood mansion, feeling like a lamb heading to slaughter. "Lisa, darling." Eleanor's voice dripped with honey as she air-kissed my cheek. "So glad you could make it." Her eyes, cold as Arctic ice, scanned my simple black dress. "Though you could have made more of an effort for such an important occasion." I forced a smile. "Happy birthday, Eleanor." My husband, Thomas, squeezed my hand reassuringly. He knew how his mother treated me, the constant jabs about my middle-class background, the snide remarks about how I trapped her precious son. But Thomas loved me, and that was enough. Or so I thought. The Blackwood mansion hadn't changed since Richard, my father-in-law, passed away 6 months ago. The same crystal chandeliers, priceless artworks, and that infamous jewelry collection Eleanor loved to brag about. Especially her pride and joy, the Blackwood diamonds, a family heirloom worth millions. "Mother, you look wonderful," Thomas said, hugging Eleanor. "The party is amazing." "Of course it is," she preemed. "Though it would be better if your father were here." Her voice cracked perfectly, and several nearby guests murmured sympathetically. I bit my tongue. Eleanor had barely waited a month after Richard's death before throwing lavish parties again. My father-in-law, kind and generous, would have hated this display. "Lisa," Eleanor's voice turned sharp. "Be a dear and help me with something in my room." Woman to woman. Thomas started to protest, but I shook my head. Better to get whatever this was over with. Eleanor's bedroom was a monument to excess, all gold fixtures and silk wallpaper. She closed the door behind us with an ominous click. "I know what you're doing," she hissed, dropping all pretense of civility. "Excuse me? Don't play innocent. I know you've been meeting with Richard's lawyer. Planning to contest the will, aren't you? Thinking you deserve a piece of the Blackwood fortune." I stared at her, bewildered. "What? I haven't met with any lawyers." "Liar." She stepped closer, her designer perfume suffocating. "Richard was too trusting, too soft. But I won't let some gold digger destroy what the Blackwoods built." "Eleanor, I really don't know what you're talking about. I haven't." "Save it." She turned away, walking to her massive vanity. "You can go. I just wanted you to know that I'm watching you." I fled the room, my heart pounding. Something wasn't right. Eleanor was many things, but she'd never been quite this unhinged. Back at the party, I found Thomas deep in conversation with his sister, Margaret. "Everything okay?" he asked, noticing my pale face. Before I could answer, a piercing scream cut through the party's elegant atmosphere. Eleanor came flying down the grand staircase, her face a mask of rage. "Thief!" she shrieked, pointing at me. "She stole them. The Blackwood diamonds are gone." The room froze. Hundreds of elite guests turned to stare at me. "Search her bag," Eleanor commanded. "She was just in my room. She must have taken them." Thomas looked between his mother and me, confusion etched on his face. "Mother, Lisa would never." "Check the security cameras," a calm voice interrupted. Mr. Chen, Richard's longtime friend and head of security for the mansion, stepped forward. "The entire house is monitored." Eleanor's face flickered with something, fear, before she composed herself. "Yes, excellent idea. Show everyone what kind of woman my son married." Mr. Chen nodded and pulled out his tablet. Within moments, the party's giant screens came to life, showing security footage from the past hour. What we saw next changed everything. The cameras showed Eleanor herself removing the diamonds from their case before I arrived in her room. Then, while I was downstairs, she'd slipped them into my coat pocket hanging in the cloakroom. "But that's impossible," Eleanor sputtered as her own actions played out on screen. "That footage must be doctored." "The footage is authenticated and time-stamped," Mr. Chen said quietly, "just as Richard requested." "What Richard requested?" Thomas asked sharply. Mr. Chen pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Mr. Blackwood left instructions to monitor his wife carefully after his death. He also left this letter, to be opened only if Eleanor attempted to harm Lisa in any way." The room held its breath as Mr. Chen broke the seal. My father-in-law's final words were about to turn this birthday party into something none of us expected. Mr. Chen began reading Richard's letter, his voice echoing through the silent room. "My dearest Lisa, If you're hearing this, then Eleanor has finally shown her true colors. I've watched for years as she tormented you, while you maintained your dignity and grace. What she never knew was that I saw everything. Every cruel word, every scheme, every attempt to drive you away from Thomas. You see, Eleanor married me for my money, just as she accuses you of doing with Thomas. The difference is, you truly love my son. I've watched you support his dreams, stand by him through failures, and love him unconditionally. You're everything I wished Eleanor had been. That's why I changed my will 2 months before my death. Eleanor believes she inherited everything. She's wrong. I left her only a small monthly allowance, the Blackwood fortune, including this mansion and all assets I left to you, Lisa. Why? Because I trust you to preserve the true Blackwood legacy, not one of wealth and status, but of family, love, and integrity. Values that Eleanor never understood. There's one condition. You must use part of the inheritance to establish a foundation helping women who suffered from domestic emotional abuse. Eleanor's treatment of you may have been subtle, but it was abuse nonetheless. To my son Thomas, I'm sorry for any pain this causes you, but I've watched you struggle between loyalty to your mother and love for your wife. It's time to break free from Eleanor's manipulation. And to Eleanor, you spent 30 years pretending to love me while waiting to inherit my wealth. Consider this my final gift to you, freedom from pretense. The diamonds you're so desperate to keep, they're paste replicas. I sold the originals years ago and donated the money to domestic abuse shelters. Mr. Chin has all the legal documentation ready. Choose wisely, Lisa. The power is now yours. With love and trust, Richard Blackwood. Eleanor's scream of rage shattered the stunned silence. Lies. All lies. She lunged for the letter, but security stepped forward. The documents are quite real, Mr. Chin said calmly, producing a thick folder. Everything was properly filed months ago. I felt Thomas's hand find mine. Did you know? He whispered. No, I managed. I had no idea. Eleanor rounded on her son. You can't let this happen. That gold-digging war can't take everything. Thomas straightened to his full height. Enough, Mother. For 15 years, I've watched you torment the woman I love. No more? He turned to me, eyes shining. Dad was right about you, Lisa. He was right about everything. Get out. My voice surprised me with its strength. Eleanor, get out of my house. Your house, she sputtered. Yes, my house. You have 1 hour to pack your essentials. The rest can be arranged through lawyers. As security escorted a screaming Eleanor upstairs, the party guests began quietly leaving. Only Margaret, Thomas's sister, remained. I knew Dad was up to something, she said, smiling. He asked me months ago what I thought about you running the family estate. She hugged me tight. He chose well. Later that night, after the chaos had subsided, Thomas and I stood in Richard's old study. I'm sorry, he said softly. I should have stood up to her years ago. We can't change the past, I replied, but we can honor your father's wishes for the future. The next morning, Eleanor's face was all over the society pages, not celebrating her 60th birthday, but being escorted from the Blackwood mansion in disgrace. She'd moved in with her sister in Connecticut, where she tells anyone who'll listen about her ungrateful daughter-in-law. But I'm too busy to care. The Blackwood Foundation for Emotional Abuse Survivors launched 6 months later. Our first fundraiser raised $12 million. Eleanor wasn't invited. As for the fake diamonds, I had them mounted in a special display in the mansion's entrance hall, with a plaque telling their story. A reminder that true worth isn't measured in carats or dollars, but in the strength of one's character. Richard would have liked that. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about proving that love, integrity, and kindness will always triumph over greed and cruelty. And those are gems that no one can steal.